Look, and again, I'd like to welcome the Minister back to the House on this important piece of legislation, the Affordable Housing Bill. I suppose I just want to speak briefly to these series of amendments. I think they're really important amendments in the bill, and they're at the very heart of this issue of affordability. And as Senator Higgins said about the important criteria of affordability, and it struck me as rather odd that this is a bill entitled the Affordable Housing Bill, but it couldn't even give us a definition of affordability. So there's no definition of affordability in this bill. Now, you could ask, well, what are we doing here? That's our job. But currently there's not. And I've studied and looked, I've spoken to a number of people about this bill in the last few weeks, and I've taken stock of the library and research, and I want to again acknowledge the enormous work they've done in relation to the commentary and digest in relation to the bill. But I think that's an important point to say. So the affordability is really the issue. And when you look at the issue of affordable dwelling in section 5, but we won't go on, we've moved on there, but throughout the bill, when we look at affordable dwelling, it merely talks about ways in which homes can be made available. And you'll be aware of that, Minister. It mentions a dwelling made available by a housing authority. It talks about a dwelling which may be Part 5 agreement. It then talks about an open market dwelling and says that any home made available through these avenues is an affordable dwelling. But what is an affordable dwelling? I mean, my view on affordability is simple. It is that anything more than 35% of your net income is not affordable. That is the reality, be it a purchase scheme, be it any form of scheme, rental or purchase or shared equity, anything that costs more than 35% of your net income is not affordable. I think that's a simple matrix, a simple rule, and I think it's recognised by many jurisdictions as to be a marker in terms of affordability. So what use is the term affordable dwelling if it bears no meaningful, no legal resemblance to what those words are commonly understood to mean? That's really important. Just because a home is made available to a person in a particular manner, it does not make it truly affordable. And you can't change that by simply putting it into the bill and passing it through the Houses. So I think there's a lot of ambiguity about the issue of affordability. I know what we're all trying to achieve, but I do think it's a critical aspect of this legislation. What is affordable? And we all know, and we've all said this in the last few days, about people that are paying huge amounts of money in terms of rent to have a home, because we're talking about homes rather than houses. And, to have a home, and they're paying this money. And there's no sense of ownership, and what people want is, they want secure tenure, and they want fair rent, or they want affordable repayments, and that's the real issue. And that should be the very kernel of this piece of legislation. So, Minister, I would like to suggest that you and your officials might look at this again, because I really think it's it's a very simple, but it's an omission in the legislation. Let's define what affordability is. We might disagree on our interpretation of affordability, but let's define what the general common view on it is and what's acceptable to you and your officials and everybody else. Clearly, we know the guideline is in around 30–35%, and I think it would be very helpful and would give great comfort to people. But to suggest because of the marketplace, I mean, I live out in Dunleary. No better, a more expensive place to live, to acquire a property or to rent a property or to share a property, and you could be somewhere else, in some other part of the country, it's a different scene. So what the market demands or sets in one place is very different from another place, and this is national legislation, so I think we have to be clear. We have to have a simple matrix about what do we define in this legislation as affordable, and it's only right and proper that that be set out clearly in this important piece of legislation, which after all is the Affordable Housing Bill 2021.